If you're running Windows 365, what profile management tool do you use and why is it so important? Because it's a single user desktop, right? Wrong. So with the introduction of Windows 365 Frontline and Windows 365 Cloud Apps, we need something to manage the user's profile, right? Because they're going to be shifting between different session hosts, right? Or virtual machines. So how do we save the profile? Because FSLogix isn't supported, right? That's why Microsoft have introduced a new tool and it's called User Experience Sync. And that's what we're going to explore in today's video, right? We're going to explore exactly what it is, how to configure it, and then we're going to go and do a demo to show you in action. And this is the type of content that you like to see. Please click that subscribe button because on this channel, every week we review the latest news about Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Nerdio, Intune, Entra ID, and much, much more. All right, so what exactly is user experience sync? So essentially, user experience sync is a light version of FSLogix, which has virtually no configuration settings to it. In true Windows 365 style, all you have to do is just select one tick box, configure one or two settings, and then you're done. Historically, admins who configure like FSLogix, for example, have a lot of trouble, right? Because we have to go and create a storage account, we have to join that storage account to Entra ID or Active Directory, we have to configure the permissions, we have to configure the host port configuration settings, and then users report issues about mounting, unmounting permission problems, and it just becomes a big whole mess a lot of the time. So it's really positive that Microsoft have actually released something here, which is really simple to deploy, right? As we'll see shortly, it's literally just a tick box, right? And that enables us to basically just select one setting, which is the size of the profile that you want for the user. And that's pretty much all you have to do. The rest of it is seamless, right? If you're using a Windows 365 Frontline desktop, for example, or whether you're using a Windows 365 Cloud app, the experience is exactly the same, right? You're not going to notice anything. It's just going to assign the profile dynamically in the background and when you log on to the session, right? What we're going to do next is we're actually going to go into the portal. I'll show you how to configure it, and then we'll log on to a session for the first time. We'll configure some settings, then we'll log off, then we'll log back on again, just so you can see what it looks like, because we need this because what's the experience like if you don't have it? If you don't have a profile management solution in place, say, for example, we're delivering Outlook as a Windows 365 Cloud app, it means that every time I launch that Cloud app, my user has to reconfigure their Outlook settings, right? And the same for a full desktop profile or your cat wallpaper or whatever. So all those desktop personalization settings are now saved within the profile. Okay, so you treat it pretty much the same you would do as an FSLogix profile. So there's some stuff which is included, some stuff which is not included, but we'll go through that as well when we do the configuration. All right, so that's enough of the theory. Let's actually go and see this in action. All right, so we're logged into the Intune console. So where do we need to go from here? So the first thing we need to do is to create a provisioning policy, right? You can edit your existing provisioning policy, but you need to unassign all your users from that provisioning policy first before you do that. But we'll just go through for demo's sake and show you what this will look like from starting it from scratch. Okay, so what we do is we go to devices, and then if I go to Windows 365, okay, and then what we need to do then is we need to go to provisioning policies and then create a new policy. So you can see I've already set one up here for testing just to show you a quick demo so we don't have to wait hours for that to happen. So I'm going to create a new provisioning policy, right? So we're going to call this Windows 365 Cloud Apps Profile Enabled, for example. Okay. So what I can do then is I'm going to basically say I want to do Frontline and I want to do shared and I'm going to do Cloud Apps. Okay. If I was doing a full desktop, the process would be exactly the same, right? We just do a Frontline dedicated. Right, so we go to join type. So I'm going to do Entra ID join. We're going to select the UK because that's where we are. So I'm going to select Europe. I select a region, UK South. Okay, going to submit that. Okay, and I'm going to select single sign-on. Right, so I'm going to select next. And this is going to show me the application. So if I wanted to, I could look in here and see what applications are available on this image. So you can see here, this is the one with Office on it. Obviously, if you wanted your custom applications, you'd have to add them afterwards or create a custom image for that as well. But we're just going to go with the default gallery image, which has got 25.2, 25H2. So that's the latest one. Okay, so I'm going to click next. Language, I'm going to set that as United Kingdom. I don't need to do any device naming. I'm okay with random ones. We're not going to do any autopilot settings, but I've got an early video if you want to see what that is there. Now, this is the new thing here, right? So we can see here, it basically says user experience sync. right? So this is a new one. And as you can see, is literally just a tick box. Okay, so I'm just going to tick that. Next, it's asking me for the user storage size, right? So we get a few options here. So we can do 4, 8, 16, 32, or 64. Okay, so this will be the size of storage that you can select. So I'm just going to go ahead there and maybe select 8 gigs. And then you can select I, so that'll tell us about that. So the amount is provisioned and deducted from the policy quota when the user signs in. So select a size based on the apps and usage scenario. I think 8 gigs may be enough. To be honest with you, FSLogix profile size that I see for a production AVD user is normally about 10 gigs with all your Outlook stuff. So maybe you want to select like 16, for example. Okay, and that's literally all you have to configure, right? It really is that simple. So we go next. We set scope tab if you want to. Assignments. So this is where I would assign the users. So for example, I've got a couple of existing groups that I've got set up and configured. So you can see here, and like Windows 365 Cloud Apps, for example. So I can select that one. Select next, and it says Cloud PC. Now, unfortunately, I can't go any further here because I don't have any licenses available because I used my previous license from there. But it's basically just like next that you get within there as well, just a review create. All right, but the key thing is this thing here, right? The user experience sync. So this is the new capability that they've included, and that gives you a profile disk, essentially very similar to what you do with FSLogix. So when the user logs on, it attaches the disk, and then it goes from there. All right. What we shall do now then is we'll test this, right? So I've published an application, which is Outlook, and then we're going to launch that application, and fingers crossed it should pop up and ask me to configure some stuff. So we'll configure that, then we'll log off, and then we'll log back on again and just see what that experience is like. All right, we are back. As you can see on the screen, I have my applications delivered. So this is the Windows app experience. So you can see here, I've got my Outlook and I've got my PowerPoint. So they're the applications which I've actually delivered by Cloud Apps. So I'm just going to click on my Outlook here. So fingers crossed, this is going to launch Outlook, and then it's going to ask me for some configuration settings. Okay, so Outlook is now launching. So it's starting my app. You can see there we've got preparing Windows. We'll give that a second. So what it'll be doing now, it'll be like setting up my profile. So in theory, the second launch should be a bit quicker. So Outlook is now loading. So you can see there it's loading my profile. Okay, so Outlook is now loaded. So automatically configure my profile, which is quite cool. I didn't need to do anything. So Outlook now stores your settings in the cloud. Okay, got it. Okay, so that's my Outlook is now configured. Now what we can now do, we can actually, like the next logon should be much quicker. Okay, so it's asking me a lot of questions. So I'm just going to select not now. I'm going to close down these admin notifications, and you can see here nobody's sent me an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change something. So maybe I want to change like the display, see what the view looks like. So change view. I'm going to go to a single view. I'll go to preview mode. Yeah, so let me go to preview mode. Let me go to the layout, and then I'm going to change the view to the bottom. Right, so this is my customized view that I've got within here. All right, so I've customized my Outlook. I've just changed my view. So I've got my inbox here, and then I've got my reading pane below. So just a quick example of the stuff that you change within a profile. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log off, and then fingers crossed, it's going to go back to that view. I've closed those down. So now in theory, fingers crossed, when I reopen Outlook, it will save that setting for me. Right, so I'm just going to click on that, and there you go. So it saved that setting for me. Okay. Now, if I didn't have this setting configured, like the US setting, then it wouldn't do that. It would just create me a brand new profile, and it will just put the default setting. So that's what you're gaining here, right? You're gaining the ability to basically customize your profile, put your workspace however you want it, and then that saves having to have very upset users, which are wondering why their profiles or their settings are never saved when they persist across different applications or desktops when using Windows 365 Frontline or Cloud Apps as well. So that was it. That was user experience sync. So as you can see, pretty simple to configure, right? That's generally what you get with Windows 365. It's just a single tick box. Obviously, we're used to managing profiles with FSLogix where there's a lot of stuff that you have to configure and think about. And this is like much easier. You just tick a box and you're done, which is the way it should be. So I actually really hope that they bring this to virtual desktop, because it's much easier than managing the profiles and that kind of stuff. We'll see. But yeah, that's the feature itself. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please click that like and subscribe button, and I will see you next week for another video. Thank you. Bye bye.